For the first time ever, the astronomical world is on tenterhooks with the twinkling star sky. Now, experts have worked out a detailed portrait of a star that exists outside the Milky Way. The researchers were astonished to find the remote giant star is, for its size, surprisingly cloaked in an egg-shaped dust cocoon and does not have much in common, as had been believed, with the stellar Big Champ. However, keep in mind that science writers these days are not always the only ones taking breathtaking star observations, and sometimes even simple amateur stargazers are taking such images and then sharing them around the rest of the world. Not always does it have to be NASA's high-tech instruments because, come on, who needs NASA's James Webb Telescope when you can have a 13-year-old YouTube clip instead? First, it may sound a little ironic, but it also tells us it is possible that average consumer-oriented kind of us can marvel of the wonders of the cosmos and the details that it encompasses, and that we do not need to have an astronomer's career. The image shows us a colorful celestial body that sparkles almost kaleidoscopically, uploaded by user Android Artisan in September 2011. What exactly are we seeing in such detail here, though? But the video of Sirius shows us no less than the brightest star lying in the whole night sky. This means, expressed in figures, that structure glows to the apparent brightness of 1.46 MeG. It turns out that, stringently speaking, Sirius is a double star with a main sequence star of spectral type A1 and a small, less luminous white dwarf. Despite its modest size, just about the size of Earth, Sirius B is a notable body in the world of astronomical research. It's no wonder, as after all, this white dwarf is no farther out from the solar system than this one. This has also led experts to fundamentally describe this very compact, old star type. Sirius B is also one of the best studied white dwarfs, which is why it ranks fourth. Since Sirius B is so much fainter than Sirius A, that is to say, Sirius A literally outshines its modest partner in every conceivable way. However, it can be difficult at times to observe Sirius B. We're talking a genuine stellar youngster here. It's just 8.7 light-years away in the constellation Canis Major. Our Sun, already well into its 4.6 billion years, is undergoing its pitter-patter, and Sirius A has only recently emerged, 225 to 250 million years old. Our stellar companion, however, is sighted, and as if that were not enough, regardless of age, our star is clearly beaten by its central star. One side is Sirius A is about 2.1 times more massive and 1.7 times larger than the Sun, and is 25 times brighter than our mother star. It's obvious it wasn't added to the star charts yesterday either. Sirius, with this radiance in its background, is sometimes mistaken for a UFO. Even in ancient Egypt, it actually had an important role. The inhabitants of the land of the pharaohs read this at the hour when Sirius first makes his appearance at dawn, and know that a time of the coming of the flood of the Nile was near. However, if you were to draw a line from the ancient days till date and reflect on the YouTube clip we have, you shall then remember the striking star flashing too. However, while this looks particularly impressive in that close-up, there is no question that when it is seen with the naked eye it looks so striking, repeatedly generates UFO reports. There's no joke about this. Sirius was reported 21 times in 2022 as an unexplained radio source. What is the background to this fascinating spectacle? So, with extraterrestrial spaceships now over, because they can explain no more, Earth's atmosphere becomes the one to take their place. Refracted, but it's actually got to pass through it. With a very bright star, it can be an optical impression that the star sparkles in color or at least moves. The case of Sirius is further complicated by the fact that it does not ascend very far in the sky, and in any case, being low in the sky, the sparkle of the supposed object is redoubled by the turbulence of the air being even greater close to the horizon. If you have now been inspired to see the UFO star with your own eyes, we have good news for you. Sirius is visible at 10 p.m. or so at the beginning of December, and even in the eastern sky at about 8 p.m. at month's end, where you will see its flashing color change. First up, close cosmic star. Sirius even looks so close you could touch him in the old YouTube video, if you like. Of course, such a fascinating world of such close-ups is not limited to amateur astronomers. Now, even thanks to better instruments, improving telescopes that enable experts to see some stars and even exoplanets in their own details in images these days. This turned what was once just a bright point of light into a multifaceted cosmic insight in this context. Unfortunately, such close-up images are only usually obtained from bodies close and big. The big, for example, Betelgeuse, or famous pole star. But for objects much farther away from Earth, researchers have been stuck in the dark for a long time until now. That's because scientists, for the first time, have been able to photograph a star located far beyond our Milky Way. And we mean really far. Let us remind ourselves. We know, in the back of our heads, that a light year is about 9.46 billion kilometers, and so 8.7 light years away from home is thus 1,000 billion kilometers. But with the reassuring knowledge that the star we have in our eye is about 260,000 light years away from us. We have here a red supergiant in the Large Magellanic Cloud, known by its scientific name WG64, about which there has been a lot of work done in previous times. More accurately called its behemoth star weight of an estimated 16 to 22 solar masses, and at 1,700 times its size, it is also the source of heat and life. In addition, these previous observations had already shown that WG64 was blowing enormous amounts of dust and gas through its fluffy hole. Such a loss of mass through an intensified, stellar wind in detail means only that the red supergiant's supernova is near. In an astronomical sense, being the imminent means that it most likely will not be present on the stage of the cosmos for longer than 1,000 or 10,000 years in a violent exodus. 1 or 2 snapshots of the aging star can be taken, so there will be enough time. That's precisely what the team led by Kiyonaka from Andre SPO University in Chile has just pulled off for the first time ever. The experts used the gravity instrument on the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope in Chile to do this, using data in the near and mid-infrared range. The bottom line was a groundbreaking image that confirmed what had already been suspected. That isn't in doubt. The veiled red supergiant is indeed surrounded by a gigantic dust ring, concluding that it is the final chapter of its stellar life. On the one hand, however, the image also showed that the reality of the dust and gas cocoon's shape is significantly different from what previous models and observations suggested. But it is surprisingly egg-shaped, and though scientists are stumped as to how such an elongated shape came to be, the star is thought to have unevenly ejected the material of its hole during what you might otherwise describe as the star's largest eruption, but the egg shape could also be a result of the influence of a previously unknown companion star, which you could say best represents WG64's appearance. But still, this was far from the only surprise the star photo had up its sleeve for the experts. In fact, when I dug a little closer into the past 10 years, I realized that WG64 had changed a great deal. That is, or rather that its near-infrared radiance has greatly increased over time. Experts told me this was the case as a result of the enormous dust masses that have accreted around the star over that time, making WG64 also reminiscent of Betelgeuse. The giant star of the Milky Way is 8 times the diameter of the Sun and 100,000 times the luminosity, but its extragalactic cousin takes the ejected material and first makes it into transparent grains of aluminum oxide and magnesium silicates. When silicates that are high in iron manage to settle onto dust grains, those grains absorb even more radiation and the dust heats up, generating even more near-infrared radiation, but making the cooler dust grains appear darker and darker in visible light. The researchers also draw a comparison to Betelgeuse, which has experienced extreme dips in brightness before. In fact, there had even been talk of this being a harbinger of an impending supernova. Today, however, the majority of scientists now believe that most of this development resulted from the effects of a cloak of dust. The case of WG64 is, however, somewhat different. They said the supergiant is one of the most extreme of its kind observed, and any great collapse could be that final step to a supernova.